Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I am Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, your radio flagship home of the Dallas Cowboys, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday. He is also the co-host on the Dallas Cowboys pre- and post-game show on the Cowboys radio network. Brian, how you doing today?
Doing well, Robert. Thank you very much. And do I get to talk about you at this time? Do I get to add on that you're
sure?
You said you mentioned you're the Cowboys insider, and you're also on that show 5:30 to 10, one of my favorite shows to listen to here on the Fan. With Sean and RJ and Bobby all doing that, and you also you mentioned you're insider, and then you're also draft show guy, and then a host of this soon-to-be award-winning podcast that we do.
Oh, yeah. The awards are coming. The
awards are coming. Yes.
And part of the reason the awards are coming is because of our dear listeners who have been
That's exactly right.
So great to us. Right. We wouldn't have this without you guys. So we're going to start throwing you guys a question for you to answer for us at the beginning of each episode. And then the following week, we'll read some of your answers off at the end of the mailbag, just to get you guys some of your thoughts and some of your interactions. So especially if you're on the YouTube video and you can comment there, answer this question for us. This week, we're asking the question, who do you think is going to start at left guard in week 1 of the 2023 season? Because there's been a lot of discussion about that. We've been talking about it. So you guys there on YouTube, you can tweet us as well. But especially if you're there on the YouTube, drop us a comment. Who do you think is going to start at left guard week 1 of the 2023 season, and why? Very simple. And with that in mind, Stephen Jones must have known we were going to talk about this today, Brian, because as we record this on Wednesday night, the Cowboys made an announcement about the PBR, not Pabst Blue Ribbon, but the bull riding league, that they were going to be hosting the championship in 2024 at AT&T Stadium. So Stephen Jones was out there, was speaking to the media, and courtesy of our good buddy John Machota over at The Athletic, he has this quote from Stephen Jones. He says, "Our top 5 linemen are our top 5 linemen: Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Terrence Steele, Zach Martin. Really felt like if you're going to get your best 5 who have played in this league, those are our best 5. We'll see what happens from there." So this is sort of what we've expected. I mean, Stevens talked a lot about best 5. Mike Solari talked to us, the new Cowboys offensive line coach, talked to us about best 5 on day 3 of the draft when we interviewed him on DallasCowboys.com. But this is the first time I think that Steven has spelled it out as these are our best 5, and now we got to figure out how that will play out. But when you look at that and the way Steven lays that out there, if that is their best 5, and Steven is committed to this is our best 5, and we believe this, is there any other option at left guard other than Tyler Smith?
How about Adoga? That's a veteran, veteran guy right there. Farniak was a guy that actually got action in week 1 when Connor McGovern went down. I'm not buying into the ball and all that other stuff, playing there. I think they're going to kind of get their tackles situated. Let's go. And then also though, with Awesome Richards, I think are 2 really good young guys that they're going to be able to work with. But if Stephen Jones believes this is his best 5, then by all means, that's what they're going to do. And me personally, I understand. And let me ask you this question, Bobby, because I was on Cowboys break today with Derek and Ambar and Nick, and I'm not concerned with the Tyron Smith injury history. I know it's part of us. I know it's something that we live with every year at this time. We talk about it. We know in the back of our mind that it's like driving a car with 250,000 miles. Something's going to happen. At some point. Something's going to happen. It's either going to work or something bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But no, is anybody not talking about Tyron Smith regressing as a player? Is anybody that maybe the injuries have piled up to the point where he's not Tyron Smith, the Hall of Fame guy that we've seen 4 or 5 years ago?
I don't think there's been enough discussion about that. And I think that's the reality of the situation is when you take together the way he played at the end of the 21 season, the playoff game against San Francisco, worst game I've probably ever seen the guy play, even going back maybe to his rookie season. He was bad. He was letting Charles Omenihu, who had been shipped out of Houston, who needed all the good football players they could get. He let Charles Omenihu dominate him late in that football game. So that was a rough sequence. Then when you saw him come back, I thought Jacksonville, which was his first game back, he looked okay. He didn't look bad. He looked okay, but every other game after that really just, he was not great. And I think you saw a lot of the struggles. Now the question is, did he need to find a rhythm? Were there issues with injuries, whatever else? But I'll remind you, you saw it just like I did out there in Oxnard or at the Star. You had Dorrance Armstrong and other guys beating him in practice, and we never used to see that. Right. And so I think that you are looking at Tyron Smith is not the player he once was. And I don't know, is Tyler Smith a better guard than Chuma Edoga? Very well, probably is. Is the gap between Edoga and Tyler Smith at guard so substantial that you can justify losing what Tyler Smith was giving you at left tackle in the deference, the name of deference to Tyron Smith? That's where I start having an issue. And that's where I think your best five, as hard as this may be for people to hear, your best five might include Chuma Edoga.
See, that's the thing that the thing that I'm looking at right now is that Tyron Smith, he saw what was going on at offensive tackle last year. And then all of a sudden you lose, you lose a Steele. And he sees how well that they're playing at left tackle without him. And they this is a stand-up move, stand-up guy and all that. And you know what? I respect the heck out of Tyron Smith. I really, really do. He saw what was going on at left tackle. He saw how well Tyler Smith was. It wasn't like that he was like willing. He was volunteering to play right tackle. I mean, he's looking at it as going, well, heck, I how do I get my job back over there at left tackle? The guy's playing pretty well. Well, I'll volunteer to play right tackle, and everybody will feel good about it. But man, that's the thing that even Tyron Smith saw it. He saw the development of Tyler Smith at left tackle, and he didn't push the issue. He was trying to be the team player, and the organization was like more than willing. And what they put him at right tackle. They didn't move Tyler Smith over to right tackle. They kept Tyler Smith at left tackle. So to me, I'm sitting there thinking, well, why put him at guard? Why do this? If the Hall of Fame tackle saw that and didn't want him to move out of the spot, how can we not see that? That's the thing that and to me, this year is really important for a couple of different reasons. And the first reason is you have the development of Tyler Smith at left tackle. Okay, move him to guard now, and we got a whole new line coach. We got a whole new offensive line coach here. 2 new line coaches. So now where are you at? No, are you going to, okay, now we're going to have to new line coach. Now you got to move in there to play guard. I'm keeping that kid where I know that he could play, hell, he could probably play guard, but I think there's something with Tyron Smith here that I'm worried. Now, and maybe this will all take care of itself. Maybe all this will take care like you and I are talking about. And then that something happens with Tyron Smith and then Tyler Smith shifts back to left guard. But the fact that even Tyron Smith said, hey, I will play right tackle. And you know what? At times he wasn't good enough.
No,
he wasn't good enough. And, there were times when they didn't run the ball well enough. And I'm one of these guys that thought, man, hey, yeah, you're going to put big Tyron Smith over there and everything's going to be fine. And no, believe it or not, Terrence Steele and Zach Martin are a damn good combination on that right side. They run the ball better, and they lack that when Tyron Smith got over there. And I personally thought, but You know what? I'm not buying that now. I am not buying that. And I think they got Tyron Smith to take a reduction. Tyron Smith's salary for a starting tackle was more than manageable. You know, they've been getting breaks on Tyron Smith, but then again, Tyron Smith doesn't always line up and play every game for you. You know? So to me, I'm leaving Steele at right tackle, and I'm leaving Tyler Smith at left tackle, and I'm going to adjust from there. But you know, if this whole thing with the best five and all that, hey, I appreciate what you're saying, but man, I'm a little worried about moving Tyler Smith. You know, again, after how well he looked at left tackle, and then with the new line coach playing him at left guard, I'm a little nervous about that.
Do you think who do you think was better last year overall when they played, Jason Peters or Tyron Smith?
Man, there were some times where Jason Peters, there was some struggles with Jason Peters. I'm not going to act like that it was perfect. There were, you know, plays that were to his side where he could get into the block and all that. The backside cutoffs and things like that. No. If you told me give me one or the other, I'm taking Tyron Smith over.
Sure. And I agree. I think largely.
I don't think that Tyron Smith played to that level.
No. And I think Jason Peters was better early in the year than he was in the second half.
He wore down a little bit. He wore down when he had to play. Yeah.
He's Methuselah out there. He's old.
Yeah.
So I get it. But when you look at the only reason why I asked that, and because I just wanted to clarify this, he was better than Peters, but could you make an argument out of the guys that played on the offensive line last year, Tyron Smith was not in your best five, that he was sixth best? Because Connor McGovern, Zach Martin, Tyler Biotish, Terrence Steele, Tyler Smith, were they all better than him last year?
Kind of felt that way. Because the pass blocking and all that, Tyron Smith, you know, he's going to give you that. He's, you know, but there's still, like I say, there's some things that movement wise, there were some problems. You know, there were some problems with that. He doesn't move as well as he once did. You know, and that might be a little bit because of the things. Now, maybe this year, you know, he'll have an Tyron Smith will always come in great shape. Tyron Smith is not going to take a day off.
Right.
You know? But I could say, I just think your future is Tyler Smith playing left tackle, and we'll see what they get, if they can get Steele done. You know, we'll see if they can get the Steele contract done going forward. But the thing about it is, I don't know how good Adoga is. I say that right?
Adoga.
Adoga. The thing about it is, if he comes in now, you know, even Will McClay said this. Hey, you can't have 5 first-round offensive linemen playing. You can't. But I just worry about maybe making Tyler Smith have to play a year. And I want him playing all those reps at left tackle. I want Terrence Steele playing all those reps at right tackle. You know, I think that's your future. I think that's your future going forward. I really
What do. Is that? And this will be the last thing we have to say on this before we wrap up the segment. But the thing I can't understand is, if we're going to talk about I think Terrence Steele has done a great job and progressed. And
he's proven me way wrong. And I admit that.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's shown a lot of great growth. The one area where he's still lacking is he's not a power player.
He's never been that. He's a great athlete.
And that's where, when they start having this discussion about, well, maybe we could play Steele inside at guard, it's why are we talking about this?
No.
Why is that something? It feels like when you're talking about moving Terrence Steele to guard or Tyler Smith to guard, and you're talking about these different combinations, it feels like they are doing anything they can to just hold on to the memory of Tyron Smith, rather than addressing who are these players today and what do they do best.
That's why they talked about drafting at 26 a guard. That's why, they couldn't bring themselves. They were talking about Bergeron, the tackle from Syracuse. I mean, the conversation was Bergeron and Mozzie Smith. So they were talking about an offensive lineman, you know, and the thing is that maybe it's so much respect for Tyron Smith. And I'm not trying to take the legs out from Tyron Smith. I'm just saying there comes a time where you got to move forward. You got to move forward here. And the fact that Steele, they tendered him the money that he got, and the fact that they're talking about moving him, why? He's proven to you he could play right tackle. He's not the strongest guy, but the run blocking, the effort, how he's prepared, all that stuff is outstanding for him. So, and then I just don't want him to stop the growth, and especially with the new line coach. I don't want him to stop the growth of Tyler Smith and having to plplay guard. Even though we're going to say, well, hey, Broadus, he was going to play that position until Tyron Smith got hurt. He was going to play over there. He was going to play left guard. Played left guard whole training camp. What are you talking about here?
Right.
I just think he's a left tackle in this league. I really do.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, this is a discussion that I know we had talked about off air last week, something that I wanted to bring up. I was in our Twitch chat for 105 Through the Fan recently, and I happened upon a conversation in the afternoon, and one of our Twolos, which is what we call our listeners there on the Twitch for 105 Through the Fan, one of our Twolos, Shoot Brown 78, had asked the question, who was the last shutdown corner in the NFL? And it made me think about what that actually means, like how you would define a shutdown corner. And so before we tackle the answer of, who was the last shutdown corner, and then how that plays into Trayvon Diggs and the discussion of re-signing Diggs, because that's where this conversation is going to lead eventually. I'm curious for you, how would you define that term? Like if somebody said, Brian Broadus, what is a shutdown corner? How would you describe that to somebody in just a couple words?
Yeah, the player has to have the ability to eliminate their best receiver. That to me, when you're talking, and you know what, I'm all for the ability to travel. There are guys that won't travel, but if you're a shutdown corner, you should be able to travel. You should be able to play the left side. You should be able to play the right side. If you're even asked to play some slot sometimes, you should be able to do that. It's a very big responsibility, and it's not many people can do it. I think about shutdown corners. I think about Revis, back in the day, and people will say, well, when quarterbacks just don't look your way, when they know that attacking your side of the field is going to be a negative play, that to me is a shutdown corner. That guy. But I feel like you have to have the ability to play both sides. I don't feel like that you could sit there and just say, oh, I'm only going to play right side or left side. That ability to travel and the ability to deny the football, whether it's inside, up the field, along the boundary, those are the shutdown corners. Those are the guys that when quarterbacks know they're throwing the ball, it's going to be a contested play, a tight throw, and there's a possibility of a turnover. And that keeps a lot of quarterbacks from throwing to certain sides of the field, especially if they know that guy's standing there.
I think that's largely, I think we're going to have similar definitions here. My thing is, I do not care nearly as much, like you just mentioned. I don't mind if guys don't travel. If you don't travel with a receiver, it doesn't bug me, at least for me. So my definition of a shutdown corner would be week in, week out, the expectation that one half of the field is essentially off limits to the quarterback. So in order to be a shutdown corner, I think you also have to sustain the success over multiple seasons. So you can't be a one-off. Josh Norman in 2015 with the Panthers was a shutdown corner. He was absolutely shut down that year. It's a big reason why they made it to the Super Bowl. He would not be somebody I would say that was a shutdown corner, though, because it was a supernova. It was 1 year. It was gone in a flash. He couldn't sustain the success. I think Jalen Ramsey is close. It has been close at times. I don't think I'd call him that because he wasn't able to sustain it. So with my definition in mind, here are just some of the names for me, and you can come up with some names if you feel like I'm missing anybody. I'm looking at since the year 2000, post Dion, more modern era when passing started
Well,
becoming
can I say something real quick,
Yeah,
Bobby,
yeah,
about the one side of the field thing?
yeah.
Teams can formation you to put their worst receiver over on you as a shutdown corner.
Sure.
They could take you out of the game. They could
Yeah.
take you. I mean, that's why I think that, that's why I think it's the loftiest thing. It's probably not even the right word. It's a very lofty thing to say about a corner that call him shut down. Because if, you could play on one side of the field and I know damn good and well I'm not throwing the ball your direction. And I could put my third receiver over there. I could formation you out of ever having to deal with anything. I know going into the game. Is that shut down? Yeah, I guess you're shutting down, but I just don't feel like
here's where this really comes up for a lot of people. First, Norman was part of that discussion. Norman was a zone guy who played one side. But the bigger question here, this is what it comes down to, is that because he played one side, then you would not have considered Richard Sherman a shutdown guy then, right?
Yeah, I think that, no, to me, that's what I'm saying. The thing about Richard Sherman is
because Sherman only played the left side. That was
I know. That's what I'm saying. To me, I think it's when you start to talk about shutdown, you're a guy that can go anywhere on the formation and play. That's why there's not many of these shutdown guys. To me,
I think he could have. I think he could have.
You don't have to. You don't have to throw the ball at Richard Sherman. You don't.
Sure.
Is that shut down that you like? Okay, you're shutting it down because I don't want to throw the ball at you. But what good is it if we're throwing the ball to the other side of the field and the other corner can't handle it?
Well, I've got so I would include Sherman. You would not. I can tell.
I just don't think there's the thing about the shutdown corner. And name your guys. Go ahead and name your guys. I love Richard Sherman. I really do.
No. Yeah, and I don't think you're disrespecting him. I just think that I totally get what you're saying by your definition. I'm just saying I would still include him in my list of shutdown. So I would include Sherman. The other guys that stand out for me just since 2000, Champ Bailey, I think, was shut down.
He can move.
Darrelle Revis was a shutdown guy. And then it was shorter than these other guys, but it was sustained over 3 to 4 years pre-Philly, and that's Nnamdi Asomugha was a shutdown corner in Oakland to me. And Asomugha went an entire year, I think it was 06, 07, something like that. Asomugha gave
one interception, right? Because they never threw the ball his direction.
He gave up like 3 catches in an entire season or so.
That's what I'm saying. You could formation your way around these guys. So I think to be the shutdown corner, I think you have to have that ability to go and I'd love to have seen Richard Sherman, but Richard Sherman struggled to run. I mean, if he could force you to the boundary and use the sideline and all that, Richard Sherman was a hell of a player. But the other guys you mentioned, the Champ Baileys and guys like that.
Champ and Revis,
Revis, it didn't matter. Like at the end of a game, if they needed to go get a stop, they could move that guy to, hey, we got to go take care of Randy Moss. Boom. There we go. We've got to take care of those receivers from that era. We got to.
This is actually good though, Brian. Like you're actually, for the point of the discussion, this is actually helping what I'm setting up here, which I like. So the one guy that I would have, the one guy I've just been a little iffy on, and I'm going to go ahead and include him. Last time I discussed this on 105 Through the Fan, I did not, because it was close. But I talked to more people and they convinced me I should have had him on those. The last one is Patrick Peterson, and that'd be it.
There you go.
So for me, I've got 5 names: Champ Bailey, Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman, Nnamdi Asomugha, Patrick Peterson. You would not have Asomugha or Sherman because of the side issue.
No. Sherman would be the one that I probably wouldn't have, because I feel like I don't have to, I could avoid, you can avoid all these guys. Well, I take that back. You can't avoid all these guys, because if you do have that ability, and what we're talking about is shutdown. The shutdown is a guy, when you say the word shutdown to me as a defensive coordinator, I am saying I am not allowing whoever you got on route. I'm covering your best guy. I'm going to shut down your best player, your best receiver with my guy. That's what I'm going to do. Everything else with Richard Sherman and stuff. I mean, he's a hell of a player.
And like I said,
he ran a 4.58 coming out of Stanford, and he plays his ass off.
Well, and like I said, I don't want to like get too lost in the weeds on those names, but just for me, those are the five I have.
I'm just telling you the position.
Right. No. I totally get it. Like I said, so when you would not have Sherman, then like you mentioned, are there any names I'm missing that you would have over the last 20 years that you felt fit the definition that I didn't name or I'm not thinking of?
No, I mean, to me, when you're starting, like you mentioned, like with Ramsey, guys like that. See, the thing with the Cowboys, which is so fascinating about the Ramsey, because that was the Zeke draft, they didn't know that they weren't sure where they were going to play Ramsey at safety or corner. But Ramsey developed the ability. I mean, as a corner, you're like watching. Now, Ramsey's not the same guy. He's not. But I mean, I think you're getting some of these guys like the guy at Denver. Now, I mean, he's that Surtain, Now Surtain, his dad was, him, Sam Madison, those guys.
Sure. They were good. The only thing with those guys, like Patrick Surtain Sr., I think definitely got close. And Madison was good. I think Madison's time was shorter for me.
They were good together. They were good.
Yeah, for sure.
They played off each other. Whatever one had to go do, the other was capable. There wasn't any huge drop off between the guys.
So all of this setup, just to get to this idea, mainly, we're talking about what over the last 23 years, 4 to 6 or 7.
It's rare. It's rare.
It's incredibly rare.
Yeah.
So when you talk about that many guys, I can come up with way more franchise quarterbacks than shutdown corners.
Yes.
So when we discuss the extension for Trayvon Diggs, and people say he's not a shutdown corner, I don't want to pay him at the top, I don't want to do this and that, are we essentially saying Trayvon Diggs needs to be something rarer than Patrick Mahomes at his position in order to even get paid? And if that's the case, are we just resigning ourselves to the fact of, if you have that position and you feel Trayvon Diggs truly needs to be shut down, you are basically saying you don't ever want to pay a corner.
It's so rare.
It's incredibly rare.
Bobby, you're right. It's so rare. I mean, you've got these corners, it's the ability, like I said, my definition of shut down is like, I think you just got to be able to travel. I think Diggs can travel. Yeah. The problem I have with Diggs is, when Diggs wants to attack the ball and knock it down and be a part, he can. We've seen him do that. We've seen him tackle. I've seen him make back-to-back. And I'm not just talking about tackles. I'm just talking about going after the football. Cincinnati game, week 2 last year. They're dragging routes. He's chasing routes. He's tackling. He's keeping guys from getting first downs. He's capable. He's got that kind of ability where you can put him in those positions and he can make those plays. But I don't know. I don't, Ramsey, when you talk about him, when you talk about Revis, I don't. I mean, I'm maybe not there, not now, but these corners, the position, it's the shutdowns. There's just not a lot of them.
That's the general idea then, is that I agree with you. He is not up to a Revis level or anything else. I totally agree with that. But is that enough of a reason? And I'm not saying you were saying
they still throw at Diggs. They still throw at Diggs.
But you know what? He is also, we've seen him in different points. He's handled Justin Jefferson very well, better than most anybody else in the NFL has. Yeah. McLaurin, he's handled really well. Mike Evans at different points, he's handled well. Yeah. So when you look at that, is that an unrealistic standard in the first place? But also, should that be the way we decide if Trayvon Diggs should get an extension? Is he a shutdown? Because at that point, it sounds like you're asking yourself an impossible question. And instead, should we look at it as, let's just handle this because he's as good as you can get at the position without being the rarest thing at the position?
Yeah. Well, what about refresh me, Bobby. I'm sorry, I have old age here a little bit, but like in the Carolina game, DJ Moore, was there a lot of was there a lot of Diggs more catching the ball? I know he had one interception off of Moore. He battled him, contested ball. I think he had an interception.
He in 2021 he put up pretty good numbers against Diggs. And Diggs traveled him for most of the day. Was not great. Where he did do well, the times he traveled with Jamar Chase this year, he did a pretty good job shutting down Chase.
That's what I'm saying.
So he's played really well. There have been times guys have gotten him, but for the most part, he handles top guys.
He's earned his money. He's earned his money. Has he earned the moniker of shutdown? No, absolutely not. But he's earned the money. When you start to put together the resume, there's some guys he's taken care of. I wish there was some a little bit more physicality in the way he plays, but man, the guy's got ball skills. He's a finisher. You just wish that there was but people still attack him. They believe they can still attack him, and he's made people pay along the way. But I don't think he has the moniker of a shutdown corner. I don't. Even the traveling and stuff like that. But he's got time. He really does have time.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app.
It's a tough subject, man.
It is.
That's a tough subject. It really is.
It's a tough one. But
I'm sure everybody's out there is listening right now is going, "Oh, Broadish, you damn idiot." I mean, but I'm really tough on these corners. If you're watching corners and they can't defend passes going inside and they can't run with people, and man, I can't use you. I can't use you. You can't just carry everything up the field. You got to be able to fight through traffic, knock balls down, deny third down catches, tackle when they do catch the ball. It's tough.
No, and I think that's why it was worth at least trying to provide context for what is it that we're really asking Diggs to do.
Asking a lot.
It's now time for our it is now time for our Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag. We got plenty of questions here today. Let's jump with one of the most popular ones. Several people asked it. This is I'm just going to grab one of them here. It's from Jake, and he's asking, is Dalvin Cook a realistic possibility here in Dallas, Brian? Because he's going to get to Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that I think this organization is comfortable with Ronald Jones. I think they're comfortable with Deuce Vaughn. I think, we'll see what happens with Tony coming out. But, depending on, I know that on NFL.com, they put out their breakout players for each team. And they were we did the NFC East today. And they felt like that Tony Pollard was a breakout player, even though last year that he had over 1,300 yards total. But the thing about it was, people say, well, maybe that was last year breakout, but this is no Ezekiel Elliott anymore. This is, could he, they feel like with no Ezekiel Elliott that he might be even better, but man, coming off an injury that's pretty significant, but I don't think Dalvin Cook is in play here. I really, really don't.
I would say, I think that under the right circumstances and the right price, which I don't think he'll necessarily be at for them, but I could see them. It's like the way they approach everything. Well, how much is he going to cost?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we like Bobby Wagner for how much money? If he were to be in a certain price range, I could see it.
He's better than
he's good. He's going to have.
He would be at the top of the heap if you have availability of Dalvin Cook.
He's gonna have a market. But if for some reason, some crazy reason, he's available for $3 million a year, maybe I would think they might look at him then.
They haven't let him go yet, have they?
No, but he is in all likelihood out. They've adjusted.
I thought I missed something there.
Took him out of there. He's done. All right, Brian. Question from Chris. Over under Cowboys will be a 58% run offense.
I say that is false. I think
under.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under on that. I'm going to take the under. I think they're going to, like I said, they talk a mean game about wanting to run the ball. I think you might see a little bit. The thing that bothers me the most, Bobby, about this whole thing, and I wish that I'm getting on Brian Schottenheimer for saying this, hey, this offense it's not broken. It's not broken, Look, bro, they fired half the damn staff on the offense. The head coach has become the primary play caller. Obviously, there is something wrong here. I wish these guys, and I'm sorry, it's a rant of mine, but I wish for once that one of these coaches would say, we weren't very good running the ball in the second half of the season. Yeah, we had some injury problems, but we didn't do a very good job of that. We have no screen game that really could help us run the ball any better. We don't have the ability to make plays down the field. We got one guy that really can do it. We need to get Gallup going a little bit better. We just have to replace the tight end, though. We'll figure that out. We really don't have a left guard right now. Our best 5 guys are these guys, but don't tell me that it's not broke, because you changed out your line coach, your coordinator, your running back coach. You changed out people, key pieces of your organization. So something obviously is wrong. I wish these coaches would be more honest about it. Hey, we have got to get better in certain situations. Pick whatever situation you feel like the Cowboys are particularly weak in. We've got to get better. Or if Mike McCarthy, hey, we've got to, I wish somebody, would come out and say exactly like Dak Prescott threw way too many damn interceptions last year. If we keep throwing interceptions, we're all going to get fired. We've got to, it's everything is kind of sugar coated and hey, it's okay and all that. BS. Don't come out and tell me that it wasn't broke. It wasn't broke. Everybody'd still be in place. And you would have scored. Hey, how about this? The playoff games, the San Francisco playoff games, we were up against really good defenses that have been giving us problems. We've got to be better in these playoff games when it comes to our offense. Had a great game against Tampa. Quarterback looked great. That's what the quarterback's capable of, playing like that. But we're not consistent enough doing it. Be honest about it. Be honest about it. And nobody over there is honest about it.
The Cowboys last year, just for reference, they ran 1,114 plays on offense. They ran the ball 531 times, which was 47.6%. Yeah. For them to get to that 58%,
I think,
imagine the same number of plays last year and you run the ball 120 more times. That's a lot. And even if they do increase their run attempts, I think it's way under 58%.
There's no question. Way under. They're not going to, we'll see what happens with all the backs. And maybe if you went out and got a back like Dalvin Cook, you could probably do that. But with no Ezekiel Elliott, where are those carries all going to go? They're going to go to Pollard, Jones. Deuce Vaughn. They're going to have to figure something out there.
Next question here from Sergio, and this will be a quick answer, but we talk on the podcast. Okay. We mentioned, I'm just saying, we did talk on the podcast briefly right before the draft that you said you were going to get a text at 6:30 where someone was going to tell you who they thought the pick would be. And so Sergio's just wondering, we never followed up on it. Sergio's wondering,
I'm sorry,
what was the name you got?
Laporta.
Sam Laporta, which we heard a lot of buzz about, and we found out later, number 1 tight end on the board. I think it was good. If Mozzie Smith wouldn't have been there, it very well could have been a player like Laporta.
There was a lot of love on the coaching staff for Laporta. The scouts really liked Kincaid, but they saw value in Laporta. They absolutely saw value there. But that was the text I got was Laporta is what I got.
Question here from Daniel. Defense off the charts. Offense, I'm kind of scared. Make me feel better. I feel they don't have enough weapons unless we get the better version of Gallup, which I think is possible. Thanks for the show and all you do. So, Brian, here's what I'm going to do. We know the issues with the offense. We both agree with them.
Yeah, you answer this question. I'll watch you answer this one.
You're going to have, okay, fine. I'll answer it. So what
answer it. I'm not, you know how I feel.
I'm going to, Brian. Well, and I feel the same way as you pretty much. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer it under the idea of how, when you say make me feel better, you feel they don't have, I'm going to answer you the most positive way. If things break this way, which there's the potential they could break this way, these are reasons you should feel better about the offense. Jalen Tolbert proves to be the guy that they scouted. He's adjusted from the questions that arose about him in terms of being prepared and learning the different spots. If that's remedied, if Michael Gallup bounces back and he's the guy that you believe you paid, if his mentals are better, if he's better between the ears and feels more comfortable in his knee, that would be a big boost. If Schoonmaker comes in and contributes right away as a tight end who can duplicate what Dalton Schultz did, which I believe is possible, that would be big. If the change at offensive line coach proves to be beneficial, that's big. The offensive coordinator change. If Mike McCarthy's right in what he believes in and Dak Prescott limits his interceptions, these are all things that could happen. Like, they're well within the possibility of happening. I don't necessarily think they all will. Maybe some of them do. But if you're looking for optimism, say, these are all possibilities. And if those possibilities do click, then you're looking at a pretty good offense next year.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and I'm sorry, I can't talk anybody off the ledge, but I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. You know me, I'm always willing to say if I'm wrong. I just think there's, and maybe this thing will work. I don't know if the Cowboys if Mike McCarthy and these coaches all have 2-3 years to make these adjustments and all that. I really don't. Maybe that's why Brian Schottenheimer's telling me, this offense ain't broke. But, man, you sure made a lot of changes over there for an offense that wasn't broke, So I'm interested to see. There's a side of me that also believes this team very well could be 3-3 going into the bye, week 7 bye, right? Am I correct about that?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Brian Schottenheimer takes over the play calling. I could see maybe they're struggling. Maybe Dan Quinn and those guys are having to play a lot more snaps than they bargained for. Maybe they lose some games. They're 3-3. I could very well see all of a sudden Mike McCarthy, after that bye week, okay, well, here we go. We've got a game, and Brian's going to take over the play calling for us here. That's my when you're doing radio in June and you're kind of looking for subjects and stuff to talk about. My, hey, give me a wow moment. Well, there's my wow moment for you right there. Brian Schottenheimer, week 8 play caller. How about that?
Question here from Ishmael. Which veteran on the defensive side has to start worrying about the guys coming for their spot on the depth chart the most? This is something I kind of referenced earlier this week. I don't think Jordan Lewis is in your top.
Jordan Lewis by far.
Anymore.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis.
I think that's something where he's fallen out of the road. And it's not he's still a solid player. I think just Deron Bland was better.
Well, how about this?
Could be better.
How about Dorrance Armstrong?
Sure.
Sam Williams coming on the move, and Dorrance Armstrong no longer a starter.
That's a great name, I think. Brian, did you have a chance, before I ask this question, did you have a chance at all to study Jalen Moreno-Cropper, the receiver from Fresno?
I did not. I sure did.
Okay, they did not. I'm still going to ask this question. Your thoughts on undrafted free agent wide receiver Jalen Moreno-Cropper? Big fan of him here in Fresno. Feel like he can make the roster as wide receiver 4 or 5.
Yeah, I watched their quarterback a bunch, but yeah.
He is so
5'11", 175 guy.
I heard positive things about him coming out of rookie minicamp. So
okay, good.
It sounded like there was some positivity about him. I think he's got a shot to stick, and he's somebody who's really versatile. Somebody that could do a lot of different things. Now he's mainly going to be slot specific, but in terms of jet sweeps, Fresno had him throw a little bit at times, like do some reverse passes and things like that. So he's somebody who can do some different Swiss Army knife things for you. I think he's a good route runner. And look, with the questions behind, I mean, honestly, there are questions about Gallup, but Gallup, okay. The questions behind Gallup, I think you could absolutely see any one of these receivers make the spot as number 4 or 5.
What? Okay, what is that? Is he taking a Turpin spot on this roster?
Yeah, because I think Turpin's spot on this roster is going to Deuce Vaughn anyway.
Okay.
I think a lot of the Turpin stuff will go to Deuce Vaughn, but
there you go.
There you go. Plenty of questions there. We will be back with you guys again later this week. There are plenty of things to talk about coming out of Stephen Jones' discussion. A lot of the players talked. Michael Gallup talked, said that this year's going to be very different for him. So we're definitely going to have some other things to talk about. If you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, anything that you want us to touch on, like we said, be sure to tweet it at us. You can DM us on social media, or if you're here on the YouTube, just drop in the YouTube comments what it is that you'd like us to talk about. And remember, as we asked you earlier at the beginning of the show, we want to get your input. Who is your prediction for will be starting at left guard week 1 of the 2023 season? For Brian Broaddus, I am Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.